are going to require some networking, perhaps.
A nice zhuzh to the resume.
A zhuzh to the resume. Regardless of all that stuff, landing that job is taxing because when you're searching for a job while you have a job, it's like having a second job.
It's like having a side hustle.
By the time you get to the interview, you're exhausted. You need to get your act together, which brings your one-dimensional resume to life. Which font do you use?
I do. We had this discussion in our morning meeting. I said, I feel like gone are the days where I could have a piece of paper like this.
No. Thank goodness for this gal.
Yes, there she is, our next guest. She's a financial educator who, among many things, can show us how to zhuzh up said resume. She shares financial guidance to her 166,000 followers on Instagram.
And counting.
And counting, that's right.
Melissa Jean-Baptiste, welcome back to New York Living, looking
Hi,
fabulous.
Thank
Those
you for
spectacles,
having me.
so smart.
Now, what did you think of those top jobs? Usher, taxi driver,
Animal trainer.
An animal trainer sounds exciting. I think I could do that.
Yeah?
I think I could get into it.
Well, what do you need to have on your resume to be? Must multitask.
Multitask, I think really good at communicating with
Patience.
animals and people.
With animals and people.
Yeah.
All right, brass tacks. Life is
yes.
expensive, especially in this city of ours and the surrounding states. And folks are broke.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
I went to the grocery store the other day, $200, and I was like, what did I
even get?
What did I buy?
I know.
So as folks are saying, okay, I either need a job, I want to pivot.
I need another job.
I need another job. How can folks do this effectively? Where should they start? Is it the resume? Is it the Rolodex?
How about the networking?
Who uses a
Rolodex?
Rolodex?
You use a Rolodex.
I am showing every bit of my 49 years. Go, Melissa.
The first thing you're going to want to do is create a brag box, right? And so a lot of people are like, I don't want to seem egotistical, but you really want to include metrics on your resume, specific metrics that make you stand out. So that means you're going to have to go back and look at all the amazing things you've done at your job, at your previous places of employment, to really add that zhuzh, as we said, to your resume. So it's not just, oh, I can communicate well, but what has my communication done for this company? How has it really improved the overall activity, the overall output, the money, right? That's what we're looking for. So you really need to brag about yourself.
A brag box.
But how do you know if what you're bragging about is brag-worthy? Because I instituted Pizza Fridays is different than I created a citywide National Library program. I watched Abbott Elementary last night, and that was part of the. Sorry, but I mean, one brag seems to hold a little more weight than the other.
Well, it's really based on how you said it, right? So yes, you put that Pizza Friday, but you created morale, you helped lift spirits,
Huge.
and then you also help to increase productivity, right?
It's all in the wording.
I love pizza. I'm more productive when I have pizza. So you really want to change how you say things because everything is brag-worthy based off of how we put it out there.
It's not what you say, it's how you say it.
How you say it, exactly. Question, because a lot of folks at home, we're getting into the workforce when the 30 to 60 second elevator pitch.
Yes.
Are we still doing that? Is that a thing?
We are still doing that. We're doing that at networking events. We're doing that on places like LinkedIn. And you really want to be succinct in your metrics and what you're doing because sometimes you only have 30 to 60 seconds to impress somebody. So you want to get it down packed in your head to like, okay, this is what I'm going to say. This is how I'm going to present it. And this is how I'm going to wow, someone I've never met before.
You've mentioned now twice the word metrics.
Yes.
What is that specifically?
So metrics are going to be your specific numbers on things that you have accomplished, right? So if I've increased productivity by 25%, I want to put that number down specifically so they know I'm not just kind of like pulling that out of nowhere. So when I get called in for the interview, I can talk about, well, this is where we were in point A, and this is how we increased by 25%. So those numbers are so important and impactful.
Is everyone going to have metrics no matter what line of work you are in?
Yeah. I think so. I think you can, depending on what you've done. And like you said, it's soft skills really, really are important nowadays. And so we can use metrics and all types of soft skills together.
What is an example of a soft skill?
So being a really good communicator is different than being like an engineer, which is going to be a hard skill, right? But if I can communicate really well, that is going to be a soft skill that's going to be impactful in a lot of different industries.
Oh yeah, every single one, I think.
Pretty much.
What are some common mistakes that people make when creating the resume?
So a lot of times what we're going to say is we're going to lean into AI, which we all love AI.
God.
But if you sound like a robot, or if every single person is just using AI and spitting it out there, we're gonna know, right? We're gonna be able to tell, and we're not going to be able to stand out. So if you are using an AI program or an AI platform, you absolutely want to go in and tweak it and still make it sound human.
I wouldn't even have thought to do that.
Yeah,
Well,
a lot of people,
more
we're
you know.
sounding like robots now.
Interesting. So talk to us about, because we were mentioning in the meeting, do you use a specific font? Should it be decorative? Do you want a color? Should you attach a headshot or a
Photos,
little
yeah.
photo?
So a lot of recruiters on LinkedIn and all the social platforms are actually saying that the more simple it is, the better. And that's for a specific reason, ATS. So we are still scanning through. ATS is pretty
What's
much...
ATS?
It's a pretty much
I thought you said
track-
ATX, like Austin, Texas.
No, it's an automated system. So if we're adding all the pretty colors and all the different things, it's not going to read well, and we're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot. So we want to go as simple as possible. I'm a Times New Roman girly when it
Okay.
comes to font,
Font,
right?
yeah.
So very simple, easy to read, and making sure that it's going to scan properly through that ATS.
But on the flip side, you don't want it to be too wordy.
No.
Because then people's eyes are going to glaze over when they're reading it.
Right, exactly. So you want to have those bullet points that stand out with our metrics at the beginning. Also things that they're going to be looking for on that first page. So if the job asks for a degree, you want to make sure you have your degree up front and not on the bottom page too, because I'm not going to get there, right? I'm looking through thousands of applications and resumes. I want to see the good stuff right at the beginning.
How many pages should a resume be?
Oh, this
or
is
does
a
it
good
depend?
question.
I've
If you're
always-
30 years old, it doesn't need to be longer than a page.
I've always only had one page.
Right.
Wow.
So
Because I've never done
oftentimes-
anything with my life.
That's
That's not
so not true, but okay.
Oftentimes we say one page, and that's because anything that's over 10 years or just isn't relevant to the role you're applying to does not need to be on that resume. So you want to tailor it for every application that you're sending in, and that's pretty much going to keep us down to that one page.
I have a question for you. We mentioned the top times are hard.
Yes.
We've come out of a global pandemic. People lost jobs. People are still losing jobs. There's a lot of shifts. Things have changed.
Right.
A lot of people are going to have an employment gap on their resume. Some longer than others.
Right.
Is this detrimental? How do we go about that when applying?
Well, I think a lot of employers know now that the workforce is really crazy and really different. So a work gap is not going to be as detrimental as it might have been maybe 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. But I often tell people, if you do experience a layoff and you do have a gap in your employment, to add something that you're doing, a hobby or a skill or a project that you've worked on, and then you can add that in, right? So it kind of fills that gap. So it's not showing like, oh, you know, I had this layoff and I didn't really do anything, but it's showing like, yes, I was applying for jobs, but I also built, you know, this program or this project or did this community activity. So you can always fill it with different things that you can do in your day-to-day.
How important is it when you're applying for a job to ask the employer a question?
So important, right? That's really going to make you a separate candidate, a unique candidate, if you're able to ask questions. I like to ask questions about work culture to really see how am I a good fit, and that shows that I'm not only interested, but I've looked into like, oh, I know you guys are into
Pizza
X,
Fridays.
Y, Pizza Fridays, right? Exactly. And so when you come in with that knowledge and that information and you infuse it into your questions, it really makes you stand out as a unique candidate.
Let's just take her
Melissa.
with us.
I will be
we go.
sending her in on my behalf to my next job interview.
Our
It's always
consigliere.
lovely to chat with you.
Thank you. Thank you for
You're
having
a wealth
me.
of knowledge. It just
Thank
keeps
you.
on giving.